Mr. Singh, thanks for joining us today. You just visited Northern Ontario, including wildfire evacuees in Thunder Bay and Neskantaga First Nation, home of Canada's longest boil water advisory. What sticks out to you from those visits?
In Neskantaga, I met with B and Lyndon. These are two young people. B is about 10 years old, Lyndon maybe a little older, 12 or 13. And they are young kids who are fighting for clean drinking water. B said, I'm a 10-year-old girl fighting for clean water. Does that make sense? And I thought about myself. When I was 10 years old, I was not fighting for clean drinking water. I was just turning on my tap. The fact that these kids have to fight for clean drinking water, the fact that Lyndon had to say, we're also humans. We're not animals. We're humans too. These are kids pleading for basic human rights. And there is no excuse. Having seen the community, having met with the people, there is no excuse that in the 21st century, as one of the world's largest economies, that we can't make sure every community in this country has clean drinking water. This is a national shame. And Mr. Trudeau promised to bring in clean drinking water 6 years ago, broke his promise, and now setting another 5-year deadline. 11 years is just wrong. It is far too long for communities to wait. It's really a lack of will. And meeting these people, meeting the community, hearing their pain, hearing their anguish, I promise to bring their voice forward and to continue to fight for them.
So why have you embarked on what your team has called a week-long tour of Indigenous communities?
Well, I wanted to build on the momentum we've seen across Canada. People in a show of solidarity were shocked and devastated by the discovery of the unmarked graves. And those numbers keep on increasing of kids, little kids found in graves, unmarked graves at residential institutions. And so with that momentum, people are saying, you know what, it's not enough for us to just grieve and be shocked. We need to do something about it. And so I want to turn that desire for action into reality. And so we're meeting with communities to, again, call for the human rights that they're demanding, call for clean drinking water, call for implementing all the calls to action. I was at a sharing circle in Thunder Bay where Indigenous communities, in honor of the first 215 kids found in Kamloops, were going through healing because of the trauma. And I met with survivors and kids of survivors and grandkids of survivors who shared with me the intergenerational trauma and how real that is, how direct that is, how that ravages communities and people. And so I'm committed to fighting for real action, not just the words in the show that we saw with Justin Trudeau, but real steps to actually walk the path of reconciliation.
So with an election call expected, how much focus do you anticipate Indigenous issues will receive during the campaign?
I'll make sure it receives a lot of attention. We know that the climate crisis with the forest fires, the climate fires, is a real concern for people. And we know that Indigenous communities are among the communities that are hardest hit. They feel the impacts of the climate crisis first. A lot of the remote communities I've spoken with in the past, are directly impacted by the winter conditions. The lack of cold winters mean there's not enough winter roads, or winter roads aren't in effect for long enough to bring in supplies. They feel that impact directly. The forest fires, the climate fires are more so impacting Indigenous communities because they live in the communities that are impacted. So the climate crisis, Indigenous rights and justice, these are very important for all Canadians, and I want to continue to do what I can to raise the awareness and to fight for justice.
All right, Mr. Singh, I want to thank you for taking a few minutes to speak with us today.
Thanks for having me. My honor to be here. Thank you.